Welcome to Amusement Sparks. My name's Andrew Spahn. I'm your host, and with us today is return guest Ben Relethford. Hello!
Hello, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Cool.
Good to see you again, man.
Yeah, we haven't really worked together in podcast ways a ton recently. He was on the Mega Man episode, which was a while back, but that was a sweet episode.
It was. Man. We had to do it twice. It was so good.
It was. The episode's so nice they did it twice. I think that was episode 13, if I'm not mistaken, and this is episode 26, so that was...
Equally unlucky number.
That was half of the show's history ago, which is really weird to me. That's crazy. Actually, this might be 27. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, man. Well... I mean, that means that you need to come on my show again so that we can boost our ratios a little bit more equal.
We should do that. So let's talk about your show, the Cartoncast. I've been meaning to pitch some new ideas to you guys, so I just haven't done it in a while. Tell us about the Cartoncast.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to. So the Cartoncast is a weirdly named podcast where me and my younger brother Zane host a show that's dedicated to looking at old cartoons now that we're old enough to be able to contextualize them and see what the creators were thinking and actually do research and just see what we think of them as adults. Tagline. It's generally a lot of fun. You've been on the episode a couple of times, I think, for the Johnny Quest.
Johnny Quest was the one I can remember, but I might have been on another one.
Weren't you on?
I talk a lot about cartoons on podcasts, so it's like...
I believe it was just Johnny Quest,
I think it might have been. We've talked about doing other episodes.
You gotta get back on, man.
We will. It'll happen soon, I'm sure. Now that I got the new studio setup and everything, it'll happen.
Yeah, so the other thing that Zane and I do, he is pretty much the progenitor of this podcast, the other podcast that we do, which is called Empowered, which is about, it's just a kind of a 5-minute kind of rap sesh, no press rap sesh with whatever podcaster happens by, talking about superpowers and, the utility of them, how you could use them, and just kind of pretty irreverent show. A lot of fun, though. You've been on it sometimes.
Oh, yeah. It's really fun to be a guest on that show because it's just the topic pops up and go. It's really fun to kind of collaborate and weave together a short 5-minute podcast, on the fly, improv style. But it's really cool. It's a great show.
It's a good piece of pickled ginger to cleanse the palate because so often I'm doing 2.5 hour podcasts.
Right. That's a good point. If you're making a playlist of your podcasts, you should put a couple episodes of Empowered in between every long form episode. Yeah, that's totally true. I really like listening to Empowered. The ones I'm not on, I always listen to because they're always funny. There's always something. Even if it's just the very last joke, that's really funny. I feel like that show ends really strong every time. Because
that show feels a lot to me like panning for gold. It's not all good, but it's worth it.
Yeah, and it's only 5 minutes. You can stick with a crappy podcast.
Some good laundry folding podcast right there.
Sure, and it moves at a pretty quick clip as well. It'll be on to a new power before you get bored of the first one. Yeah,
hopefully.
It's a cool format. I like it. It's a good show. Empowered. Yeah. Check it out. And yeah, we have the FancyBat podcast network thing. Collaborative podcasters who like to work together and are trying to help people figure out how to make their own podcasts as well sometime in the future. A lot of these shows are pretty guest friendly and I feel like it's a lot easier to start your own podcast once you've at least been a guest on someone else's. That, hey, this technology is really not that complicated. I've already done it once before. I know how to kind of present myself in front of a podcasting audience, and now I can start my own show. It's an empowering feeling.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, very, very nice.
Wow.
A little feather in my cap is that Dan actually started his podcast because he was inspired by my podcast.
Wow.
And because he got the experience of going on my podcast a few times as our resident horror expert.
That's
it's really not that hard at all.
Yeah, that is the first place I ever heard him was, might have been maybe Vampire Hunter D. Did you guys cover that?
We covered Hellsing.
Hellsing, that's what it was.
Yeah. That actually just won our best episode of the year award that we awarded to ourselves.
That was a good episode. Anyway, so we're all gathered here today to talk about shonen and to build a theme park based on it. And this is a whole genre. That's if you said you wanted to make action movie theme park. That's a huge undertaking. And I asked you, do you want to limit it by, publisher or, only things that were in Shonen Jump magazine? And you're whatever.
Yeah. If I may, I came to anime like many other people when I was a youth, and I was watching Toonami, and so I got stuff like Dragon Ball Z, and also stuff like Zoids. But let's just ride right past that part.
The toys were cool.
Well, they weren't, but
some of the haircuts were cool.
And what I found after watching Dragon Ball Z is like, this is the coolest thing in the world. My life is now about this. It was only until like much later that anime became a little bit more mainstream, and my perception kind of exploded outward, and I saw a ton of things that were like Dragon Ball Z, but not like Dragon Ball Z. What I found is that many people like a fraction of shonen anime and don't explore outward. And what I kind of want with this theme park is be like, oh, you like, mech anime or superhero anime? Try sports animes. Try, gambling anime. Try anything that's in that blanket term, because there's a lot of stuff to like.
Absolutely. It's a huge genre. Like, that always bothers me when people are like, oh, I don't like anime. My instinct is to say anime, by the way, so just getting that out of the way. I'm not trying to be pretentious or anything.
My instincts are animu, so...
So I'm probably going to go back and forth on those two terms. I do think advocating for saying anime is a good thing to do, but whatever. It doesn't really make a big difference. So it's a huge genre, right? It covers like so many different types of things. It's created for all these different demographics. It is not one thing. It's not all Dragon Ball Z and Pokemon. There are so many niche, bizarre things you can get into. And even if you like just watching, Food Network, if that's the only TV you ever watch is Food Network, try Food Wars. For you. Like, there's so many cool anime you can watch that are going to follow your passions.
Historically, it was manga that was aimed at male youths in Japan.
Yeah, that's what the word shonen means. It's like comics for boys.
Yes, I can see you also read the Wikipedia.
I read the Wikipedia. It's a good Wikipedia. I've read it before. Because there's this weird pattern. Just point of information, I'm nearly 30 years old. But almost all my creative projects tend to fall into the shonen category. And I'm starting to figure out that, like, that's just kind of who I am, I think. I don't think it's anything to do with me being, like, a weirdo or anything, or being obsessed with that genre, because I don't watch a ton of shonen.
They call them weebs.
But I think biologically...
Weeb is the terminology
there's something
in my
DNA. There's a little bit of... something in there that just makes me want to create more things in the shonen category. So that category. Think about, like, the stereotypical things that boys are interested in. Especially young boys. It's like ages 12 to 18 is what the Wikipedia article says. You get
a lot of power fantasy. You got a lot of sports. You get some military kind of like Band of Brothers sort of camaraderie things going on. Perfection of the self. Striving to be better, exploration, adventure. It encompasses so many different kinds of things.
And I think that's the reason why all my creative works tend to be in that space, is like I'm kind of my soul is the soul of an educator. And a lot of those things are about like self-empowerment, working as a team, improving yourself, overcoming obstacles. Like they're just kind of things that like exciting pieces of media that are supposed to inspire people tend to do. Like those things all kind of fit in the shonen category more than like the shoujo category, which is comics for girls, which tend to be more about like family connections, relationships. There's like kind of drama, whereas you don't really see a ton of drama in shonen. It's a lot more like action-oriented.
There's
a lot more
tension,
fun,
certainly.
Yeah, you're right.
But
like those Dragon Ball Z
drama.
episodes that are, 10 episodes of a single fight. It's like, who's going to win? Oh no, it's really got close this time. Let's see if it gets closer next episode.
Yeah, you're never having too many like heart-to-heart, soap opera type of moments with shonen. I think that the demographic historically does not have a lot of patience for it.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of things that it does do well.
Absolutely. That's totally true. And that's what we're here to celebrate is the good parts of shonen.
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask you like what your history or experience with shonen in general is?
Sure.
I hope I didn't just take over your podcast.
I'm wondering if Pokemon is considered a shonen
Absolutely.
anime. Probably. It's not
probably in like a
lists,
subcategory of shonen, but it hits the marks of like improvement right there with the evolution stuff,
teamwork,
and battling, and
to be the best,
world-spanning adventure, all of that.
So true. So probably Pokemon. I was like obsessed with that as soon as I heard about it. I was like, Pokemon is my life now. And from then, I would just go to the video store, and anything that kind of looked like Pokemon, I would rent. So that's how I found out about like My Neighbor Totoro, and like I would just get anything that was anime that they would allow me to check out. So yeah, that only got into some weird adult themes a few times. Generally, it was family-friendly stuff I was like consuming. But that's pretty much how I got into it. And then, like you said, with Toonami, I got super into Dragon Ball Z.
That's where it began for me.
Yeah, I liked Cowboy Bebop a lot. I liked, oh my gosh, Tenchi Muyo. I was all about that show.
Dude, we did an episode on Tenchi Muyo, and we were both like, this is audacious in the best way.
I think that episode might have been one of the ones that made me want to reach out to you guys, because I felt like I connected with you. That's so cool. Yeah, because I always loved that show. It's not the best show ever, but I do think there's a lot of interesting things there for, like, I don't know, people who are liking, I'm figuring out that I like girls, and this guy has a bunch of girls in his life, and it's like you can kind of explore like what different types of girls are like, and I don't know, there was something about that like part of my life that was starting to figure out like, hey, girls are kind of cool. They're not as icky as I used to believe. Yeah, they're not aliens like I've been, taught by every piece of media I've ever encountered. Including Tenchi Muyo, though. I guess that defeats including. There's a lot of alien ladies. Yeah, that was a slow learning curve there. Point of order, Tenchi Muyo is not quite shonen. No. It's also not quite seinen. There's seinen being a, manga or comics for adult men, as opposed to young men. So there's a difference between them, but it was also very heavily focused on comedy rather than anything more serious. Yeah, so, and I think a lot of shonen has a lot of comedy as well, and maybe that's the shonen part of the show is the comedy. There's a little bit of like combat and like, learning new abilities and stuff, and that's pretty shonen. Well, the only thing I wanted to point out is that like we're going to be talking about some stuff that you might not think is shonen, but there's a Venn diagram there that you kind of have to consider. Totally. Very true. I mean, that's like, it's like trying to categorize something as being like young adult fiction. It's like some of the most popular books of all time are young adult fiction. Like, all that means is there's not going to be anything too hardcore or graphic in it. Right. But it can still be an incredible story and cover like the most amazing things and really depressing things and really exciting things, or whatever you're into. It can still be categorized as young adult fiction. And as any like, mid-30-something who has read Hunger Games or Harry Potter knows, just because something is for young adults or for, ostensibly children does not mean that you can't get anything out of it. Right. Absolutely. And there's tons of stuff that goes over the kids' heads anyway when they're young that they'll only realize when they go back and read it later. Yeah. Yeah, I deal with that all the time on the Cartoncast. Totally, that's kind of the whole Hey Arnold, and it's like, oh, this is bizarre, and then like years later, we're like, oh, this is about parental abandonment. This is awesome. Right. That's kind of my perspective of Tenchi Muyo after like listening to your guys' podcast and like going back to some of the VHS tapes. I'm like, I think this was me liking this because I was starting to like girls. I think that's why I was into this show so much, because it was like, I've never seen a show like this. This isn't like Dragon Ball Z. No one's just like, people aren't just fighting each other all the time. There are big cosmic threats and there are enemies to fight. But episode to episode, it's largely about interpersonal relationships and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I didn't really notice that. It's just like a framework. Yeah. Is offered by that other stuff, but it's really about relationships. We've only done basically 2 anime-related episodes in the past, which I guess Pokemon would be a third. But Yu-Gi-Oh! And Dragon Ball Z, I think those both fit pretty squarely into the shonen category. So maybe we could find some way to like incorporate them, or this park would be in between those 2 parks or something like that. I'm excited to hear what you brought to the table, because just the concept of covering a whole genre is like, well, I know I can bring to the table the things I'm really interested in, but there's so much shonen out there. It's hard to condense it all into a single thing. Yeah, I totally agree. What you got? So, well, maybe we should start with like. So I was kind of thinking of like some of my favorite kind of like family fun parks, like fun center kind of things with like batting cages and stuff. Yeah. And then I was realizing a whole subcategory of shonen is sports anime. Sports anime, yay! That's really cool. And that's a very shonen genre, like the sports anime. Yeah, that's to a T. Oh, absolutely. So that's really cool, because I mean, and that is something that our target audience, which is boys between 12 and 18.
Yeah, there's like Haikyuu and Slam Dunk and Swim, and I mean, a ton of them are getting. Yeah, Eye Shield 21.
Mm-hmm.
There's a ton of them. My personal. Okay, so hang on. I need to digress a little bit.
Let's do it.
My favorite anime, maybe of all time, is called Hajime no Ippo. It is about boxing. Wow. And I became kind of an amateur, some on again, off again kind of boxer. Like I joined my local YMCA to learn boxing because I liked the anime so much. So like that's how influential it was.
Dude, that is a good point actually. That the shonen genre is supposed to kind of show characters aspiring to be better. And in doing that and showing that process, you get the audience to kind of be better. Because Dragon Ball Z is what convinced me to take Taekwondo when I was a kid.
Like super cool.
Yeah, that's really funny. I was trying to find your Facebook picture. Your Facebook picture is like you being like a real boxer man and everything. Like it's a real thing,
I'm in a gym. Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Center it was Center Square in Boston back when I went there.
Huh.
Shout out to my coach Jamie. I hope his ACL is better.
Oh, of course.
He was in a slow car collision, so that tore his shoulder up pretty good as well. So hopefully he's doing better on all the injury fronts. But yeah, I loved it so much. In any case, like I want to import. Yeah, import. Yeah, that's fine. Like from a server or whatever. I want to import the ideals of wanting to be better into the people participating in the park. So let's say you go into the park and you go to like a batting cage, or you go in front of like a soccer net or a tennis thing. What I was thinking is, how there's so many of those parks that you have the roller coasters that kind of like take the pictures as you're going through the final like dip or whatever.
Yeah.
And you can put that on a mug or something. How cool would it be if there was maybe some sort of like computer algorithm to clip out like the best 10 seconds of you doing it, and then use like a bunch of techniques to just like punch up the footage of it, like make explosion sounds come out of it, make like a bunch of cool slow motion and like lens flares.
That's really cool. So are there like batting cage type of things, like little practice areas where you can like show off your skills and like you're being filmed during that action scene? That kind of thing?
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting.
I think so.
Yeah, we had a similar idea on the Survivor episode that your brother was on, actually, where like kind of filming like the really high intensity parts and then making like a supercut, like a montage for you to take home, exit through the gift shop and pick yours up. That's a pretty sweet idea. It matches with the sports anime genre. Wow. Mm-hmm. That's really cool.
It wouldn't even be that hard to think of what is your favorite sports anime. Like let's say you liked Slam Dunk and you really liked a lot of the choreography that was present in it. Maybe there's maybe the clip of you kind of dribbling with the basketball and then shooting. Maybe they add a lot of the stuff that is specific to that show.
Yeah.
And you have a bunch of people guarding around the image of you trying to get to the hoop, even though you didn't have to run around anyone when you were trying to get to the hoop, but like it just fills it in post. So it makes it look like a really tense exchange.
Yeah. And on like the creative side of it, they can just kind of have little clips from either the anime, if any of these shows were actually made into like a series, or just kind of the art style from the manga and just superimpose that over the video. Like I'm sure they'd be able to streamline that process and that workflow really quickly to kind of ask the park guests, what's your favorite sports anime? Or maybe even if you're just in the basketball area, you're going to be getting some Slam Dunk references in your video. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. And it could even be like a free thing, just like a social media friendly type of thing. We could just share this file with you instead of you have to buy the DVD or whatever, because no one even has DVD players.
Think of how good that would be for advertising. Like just, you get to the end of your, Slam Dunk session or whatever, and you go to the thing and they're like, hey, do you want to put this up on Facebook? Here's how cool you look.
I'm starting to think we could just expand the sports anime part into its own theme park and then just have all the like sports teams come in, like, because instead of going on like a school trip to a museum or something, it's like, well, our soccer team went to sports anime land and then we played soccer. And like you could actually have real sporting events there, as well as like fun interactive arcade type experiences. Wouldn't that be really cool too? Instead of having like a little carnival game where you know, throw a ball at something. It's like, well, you kick a soccer ball at the thing instead, and now it's a soccer arcade game.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's true.
That's pretty rad. So yeah, that could be a whole theme park in and of itself, but I feel like you could kind of copy and paste those concepts to all the different sports, and then we can like kind of be done with that part, I guess. That sounds really cool, though. Is there other stuff for sports anime in particular you wanted to add?
I mean, there's, there are, the only other thing I was thinking, and it's simply because, I'm such a big fan of boxing, is I was thinking, doing kind of like a Punch-Out situation, like a kind of video arcade sort of deal.
Yeah.
Where, you put on the headset and, you do the regular Punch-Out stuff. You see somebody coming at you, you try to duck out of the way, counter them. Just regular Punch-Out, but with like a VR helmet. And then same Punch-Up effects afterwards. You can see, everybody can see what you saw. And, you can either, show it exactly as it was, or you can put a bunch of crazy special effects in there with like motion blurs and stuff.
Whoa, yeah, and being in VR, you've got like some kind of controller on your hand so it knows where your hands are. So you could just like kind of attach, like a ping pong ball on there, and then it's basically a mocap suit that you're wearing already. That's sweet.
You don't even, especially with one-on-one kind of martial arts stuff, there's no reason that you can't just, box or fence or joust another person on the, in a different places. Because if they are, if they're moving in a certain way, you can just, that can be what's in your VR. And so you can be boxing someone who's like right next to you, but it looks like it's right in front of you.
Wow.
That would be really cool.
That's super cool. Yeah, that would totally work technology-wise.
It would work for fencing. It would work for like jousting. You could do whatever you wanted, really.
Wow. Yeah, that's rad. I love that. That's super cool. It doesn't work as well for team sports or like, ball-based sports where it's like someone actually has to catch this ball. It can't just be in VR. But for those other kinds of like more independent or not team-based sports, individual sports? There's a word.
Individual sports,
that. Yeah. That would work for almost all of those. That's super cool. The video editor in me is super excited about, like, I want to get a job in the video department at this place, like, making all those, like, anime-style motion lines going everywhere, and, like, cropping out the background and just having, like, lines go diagonally across the screen. Like, that would just make everything look so cool and so anime.
Maybe there's a workstation there, like, okay, here's your raw footage.
Oh,
how do you want to make it cooler?
Right.
And they'll have like kind of a Photoshop-esque like suite of options.
Yeah.
Like, give me some motion blur, give me some of this, slow mode this part, speed this part up, do some like adrenaline time. You could totally make this kind of like a cool. Baby's first editing station kind of thing.
And that could even be like an app if we're trying to get like some free marketing. If it's you just advertise this app to kids who play high school basketball, and then they can like edit their own footage to like look like a slam dunk or whatever.
I want to talk about arcade.
Let's do it.
We're gonna have an arcade here. Your classic Dream Machine or what have you.
Yeah.
Skee ball and a bunch of lights and tickets and the like. That's our standard setting. That's our template. How do we punch it up into a shonen arcade?
I think there's a lot of different ways you can do that. I think the game should be more skill based than the traditional arcade, which tends to have some luck or just I don't know. Some of the things are like, if you study this thing super meticulously, you'll get good at it. Like the game where you have to like stop the lights when it's right in the little zone. Like, it's not. It is a skill, but it's not like a fun skill. It's not like
just a reflex
skill.
Challenge, really.
Right? But you do have to like study that and put a lot of time and effort into it, which is kind of a shonen thing. Generally, shonen is something that looks more interesting. Although there are shonen that are very meticulous, like about the game Go. It's like, there's not a ton of cool action shots going on, but you can tell that these people are getting better and putting a lot of effort into this, and like, it's still an interesting narrative arc to show them get better and then fail and succeed and all that stuff. So just getting rid of the random games, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's a good move. I think the most interesting thing to me when we were researching the show Slam Dunk for our podcast, Zane and I both kind of realized that, like, simultaneously realized that all the club-based animes that are in Japan, because there's a huge like club culture, like after-school club. Oh, you're part of the archery club. That's what you do. That's your
Who you
life.
are. Yeah.
There's a huge culture over there for that, and I hadn't seen that because it's not as big of a deal in the West. So being exposed to that made me want to play Go. It made me want to like watch more anime about these more mundane things.
Totally.
Which leads me into something that I think you might maybe be aware of. I'm not sure. Are you familiar with any like gambling anime or manga?
There's one I watched one episode of, and it was just too fan servicey for me. But no.
You're talking about like Kakeguri or something like that?
I think so. It's like that is like a school that's like about gambling.
Yes. Yes. I agree. My friend recommended me that, and I was like, that's a little too much fan service for my tastes.
Yeah. I literally have like a list saved somewhere of anime with zero fan service, because I just like, especially being someone who like teaches high school, it's like it's not okay to talk about an anime that has fan service in it. It's like the nastiest thing ever.
In any case,
yes,
a gambling anime that I would recommend to you is called Kaiji Ultimate Survivor.
Okay.
Which the opening arc is he is like millions of yen in debt, and he has a chance to wipe the debt clean by going on a ship, like a cruise ship, and meeting a bunch of other people who have defaulted on their debts. And if you can beat like 2/3 of the contestants, and if you like make it to the final elimination round or whatever and like win, like 1/3 of the people who go there, their debt is wiped clean. The rest of them go to weird slavery internships, like to work like hard labor for the rest of their lives.
Wow,
it's so tense.
Yeah,
and the entire concept of that one is that that our main character, the game is called like unrestricted rock paper scissors. And everyone's given 3 copies of rock, 3 copies of scissors, 3 copies of paper, and they just, single elimination. Once you're out of cards, you better have won 5 games, and if you didn't, you're out.
Wow.
And it's so intense. There's so much mind games going on. There's like this crazy economic subplot of like, well, what if we buy up all of the scissors?
Yeah.
Then we'll know certainly that it's going to either be paper or rock, and we can totally play paper on everyone, and they won't be able to do anything to us. Whoa. And like, like all these factions form up, and it's all about rock, paper, scissors, dude.
That's amazing.
It's so cool.
Yeah,
I totally recommend it, even though it's like a slow-paced anime, but it's really awesome. I would love to see something like mild gambling. Like you buy, maybe with your entry, you get like 10 tokens or something like that, and you can do like poker or, I don't want to like turn it into kind of like a casino type of thing, because that would be gross. But
sure.
I don't want to be exploitative here. But I think that there is a lot of cool stuff in the genre that would be a lot of fun to try to emulate.
Yeah, in games that are mostly skill based, like poker, like you said, that totally fits in with the shonen archetype. I think that would work really well. That's super cool, and like there's a lot of shows that are like about card games and about stuff like that, because strategizing and building like a better deck, all that kind of stuff, those are common tropes because they're all about self-improvement and mastery, and those all fit in there. I think that's really cool. The rock paper scissors thing I wasn't expecting to get into, but that could be a really cool, like doing a tournament of rock paper scissors.
It's extremely cool.
Yeah,
don't take my word for it. Go check this anime out and make sure because it's
super interesting.
It's such a unique concept, and it's executed so well, and it's like, it's as shonen as you can make a gambling anime. Like when somebody flips over a card, they like grab it, and there's like motion blur, and they like throw the card on the table, and the table like gets like this impact sense of like
I love
and like
that.
Smoke comes out. It's so cool.
That's awesome.
Now, they roll dice, and all the dice roll in super slow-mo and like spin on the corner of a die and then like land on a 6, and you're like, oh!
That's really cool. I think trying to add some of those live effects would be really cool too. Like, you can't do slow motion in real life, obviously, but doing those kinds of things when you can, and if it's in an arcade, maybe part of it is like on a video screen, and so you could do slow motion and like add the lines in the background and all that kind of stuff. But doing like cool little like strobe lights or like launch out some like fog machine stuff whenever something cool happens. That's awesome. Yeah. Do that for sure. Yeah. Oh, that's great.
One thing that would be good that you couldn't necessarily do, in the sports section would be like a racing thing, like they have like that Daytona 500 or whatever racing game that you see in a bunch of like, side of the road pizza places or whatever.
Yeah.
I think that could be a really cool like head to head thing. You could like see like a miniature version of yourself with what like kind of like whatever costume effects you want on the screen in that car along with somebody else, and you could totally glam these up, have like motion stuff in the seat that you're sitting in, so like maybe someone tries to like bump you off the road and it like jostles your seat if you like hit a pothole or something like that.
Yeah, so just like a super high end racing game, competitive racing game.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool, and that can be based on like
just,
Initial D. Like there are some shonen shows that are, I guess that's mostly shonen, that are
I think so.
racing based for sure. There's even one, I can't think of the name of it, but it's a show about racing trains, and they made a video game of it where it's like this really high intensity train racing game. So it's just two trains on two tracks going next to each other, but like watching, I think it was on like Summer Games Done Quick or something like that. They were playing this game, like doing like a speed run of a train racing game based on some anime, like really strange anime about just racing trains.
I've really thought that, awesome. Thomas the Tank Engine could really use a gritty reboot these days.
A gritty reboot.
I think we're due.
That's awesome.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it's super weird. But a lot of shonen anime does that. Like, they're like, here's this super strange concept, rock, paper, scissors on a cruise ship to get yourself out of debt. And then they take it really seriously, and they have like this interesting character progression.
It's played so straight.
Yeah, that's what I love about the genre. Is like on paper, usually it's really dumb, and then you watch and you're like, this is the most compelling piece of art I've ever witnessed.
It's true.
Yeah,
like it's all in the presentation. You know, baseball can seem like the most dumb, boring thing in the world, and if you're me, it certainly does.
Yes,
but you punch it up enough, you put in enough like kind of high stakes situation stuff behind it, you give it compelling characters and a lot of special effects that just work, like that work on you in a very like fundamental kind of tug at your adrenaline gland way, then like there's nothing you can't do with this genre. Right.
Like watching sports on TV is boring to most people, I think, or a lot of people. But if you add character, you add story, you add special effects, like, yes, I want to watch that. I will watch, every sport game every week if it was like that. But it's not in our reality, but it is in the Shonen theme park.
Yeah, every summer.
So back when we did our Mega Man episode, which that is a little bit shonen. I realize it's a video game first, but they did make
there's similarities.
But there's some similarities, right, in the character progression and all that kind of stuff, strategy, yada yada yada. But in that episode, we allowed people to customize their avatar a lot and kind of like upgrade their gear and get different, customizations.
That's true.
And stuff. But that was mostly through VR. I don't think this one should be like all in VR like that. However,
no, I don't think any of it should be. Yeah, I wanted to low tech this thing as much as we could,
except for maybe some of the sports things that we were talking about.
Maybe the sports things, but that's just video editing.
Yeah, exactly. But if you could have like an avatar or like some kind of virtual representation of yourself with maybe even if it's just got like skill like attributes that you're upgrading as you like physically get better at playing basketball. You increase your accuracy, you increase your speed. So those kind of like Dungeons and Dragons type stats.
Oh, interesting.
Something like that to kind of show the progression. Because, I don't know, a lot of these shows, like you can tell the people are getting better as they go through the series. Like season to season, they're getting better at their skills. They're growing up a little bit. I think we want to try to mirror that in a very short term. So I don't know. It's hard to kind of show that physically, but maybe with a digital little virtual avatar it might work out. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? How do we show progression within a one-day visit to a theme park?
Honestly, I don't know if you do.
Yeah, maybe you don't need to.
Because and not to like just dismiss your idea out of hand or anything, but like I don't want somebody to come in and be like, I'm just gonna grind out all day. I'm gonna stay in this one area and just beat up slimes for 10 hours before I level up. I don't want that kind of experience. What I want is for a person to come in here and be like, hey, that's a thing I know. Oh well, I'm all out of like battle tokens or whatever. Let's see what else is here.
Yeah.
Oh, I can box someone else who's in the room and not worry about getting punched in the face. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Oh, there's this whole other world for me. So maybe don't actually, maybe don't actually improve in like kind of a leveling up capacity. But one thing that you could do to kind of incorporate maybe not like the progression part of it, but just like you want everyone to feel like a cool shonen protagonist in this, right? So, I mean, why not have like a dress up area where you can kind of customize. You can either like bring your own stuff in and pretend like cosplay essentially, bring your like try to be, a cool anime guy if you want. Like I know I've had days like that where I want really weird spiky hair and a bunch of bling.
Oh yeah.
You can totally like I don't see any reason that you can't just like have like this kind of costume area where you can like kind of plug and play and try on a bunch of like different fashion things and look the way that you want to look in a shonen setting.
Honestly, that's very empowering to me.
I think so.
I think that's really cool because I think a lot of people like they watch anime or whatever and they're like, these people look really cool. Why can't I look like that? It's like
I just look like a dude.
Then you look super weird if you like go full anime in your appearance. But if you have some
never
people
go full anime,
and they never go full anime. So, but if you had some like professional stylists who are like, we can kind of take a little bit of the anime thing. Like it's almost like oh crap, there's a term for it. It's a thing that I really like. People do this when they go to a lot of Disney theme parks, where instead of going full cosplay, they wear an outfit inspired by this person that uses the same color schemes as them, but it's like modern fashion that the average person can wear.
I've never heard of this.
There's a really cool. It's a cool thing. It's a whole thing. It's a very Pinteresty, YouTubey type of deal. But doing something like that, where it's like you don't have to wear Goku's actual shirt, but you can kind of represent that you really love Dragon Ball Z in this way. Like here are some of our outfits that you could wear, or whatever.
Give me like a bandana with Capsule Corp logo on the thing.
And
I would wear that.
You don't want to just full cosplay. Like I am not Luffy from One Piece. I just really like that show, and I'm my own shonen protagonist here because I think it'd be weird if you see, I don't know, Captain Ginyu playing baseball. It's like,
maybe not Captain Ginyu, but like, maybe someone with say an armor or like a straw hat, or say an armor and a straw hat.
Yes.
Like let's empower people to feel cool the way they want to feel cool.
Sure.
Like let's not body shame. Let's not make anyone beholden to a standard of one type of shonen thing. Like this is a celebration of all different shonen properties. Whatever you think looks cool, if you want a vampire cape and Kamina sunglasses, then by God, you should have a vampire cape and Kamina sunglasses, and no one should tell you that you don't look cool.
Amen. Put that on a shirt.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, no, seriously, I think that's totally true.
Shonen Planet.
Yeah.
You should feel cool. That's the tagline.
That's kind of the way that I think 75% of anime conventions are. Is like everyone's like, I know I don't look totally cool to the average person, but to everyone here, like this is awesome. Yeah. So I don't know. I think that's totally great. Encouraging people to be their shonen version of themselves and like not to be afraid of that or whatever. Dude, that's rad.
It's also kind of like it's also a really good like self-checking mechanism because you're never going to make fun of somebody for dressing a certain way in this park because you also look like the biggest tool in the world. Right. Like everybody does.
Hopefully.
Like, you think that you look cool, but no one else thinks you look cool. You look like a bunch of like nonsense pasted together and spat onto a 13-year-old nervous kid. Like that, I don't. You're never going to pretend that you are cooler than anyone else at this park.
Oh, that's really good.
That's what I think.
I think that's awesome. On the topic of the thing I said earlier about like the training for a long time and like leveling up, I think it's because that's usually a part of the show that like does happen, but it's usually like behind the scenes or like between episodes. It's like, oh man, I've been training for 13 hours. Now something interesting happens. Like, you don't necessarily have to show that to have that progress. And I do think a part of the shonen genre is self-discipline and training. But that's not the fun part. Like, that's not what you want in the, like, abridged version of the series. So, yeah, you're totally right to just skip that. And, like, let's assume you've been practicing this for a long time. And here's you being awesome at this thing. And then move on to the next thing. Because, yeah, people are here to have fun, not to, like, actually get good at a thing necessarily.
Yeah, you're just here to emulate. Like, any...
It's play.
It's play.
Yeah.
It's play and it's fantasy, and we should treat it like that. I don't want to go into a place, and I don't want to ever go into a theme park and think that something is expected of me. I want to go into a theme park and see possibilities and then enact on those possibilities.
Rad.
That's what I want.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Cool. Where do you think we should go from here? Do you want to go mech, martial arts, adventure? There's so many like.
Let's do adventure.
Cool.
Can you think of any adventure kind of
I would
anime
say
just to bring to mind?
One Piece is one of the top ones that's popping into my mind for like an adventure series. There's a lot of like traveling, a lot of exploring new places, meeting new people. There's always new characters on that show.
Yeah.
But it's hard to represent an adventure in a way, I think. Aside from like little vignettes, like each ride, like you could have a roller coaster that's like represents an adventure. But I don't know.
Yeah. I'm thinking of stuff like Full Metal Alchemist. I feel like kind of a world traveling kind of noble giant quest sort of thing, or Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, true.
Dot Hack is a weird example that I don't know how to incorporate.
Me neither.
It's a cool idea.
Dragon Ball.
I think that maybe
the original series was very adventurous.
Original series, yeah. I think maybe this is a good like kind of wide open area for you to just kind of like wander and explore and not know what's going to be around the next corner. Like maybe don't have maps of this area.
Oh, cool.
Like you could certainly have like kiosks and like, be given like a little button that's like, I'm lost, I need someone to help me out. But like, I don't want anyone to know what's around the next corner in this area. Awesome. It could be kind of like a big wooded area, kind of like explorative or zoo or concrete jungle or whatever.
Yeah, and do you think it's like a mashup of different shows? Like, are you encountering scenes and characters from different specific shows, or is it all just kind of general tropes of, like, here's some monsters you have to fight, here's a labyrinth you have to explore, that kind of stuff?
I was thinking more like a bunch of different biomes that you have to explore.
Yeah.
So maybe there's a cave one, with like a lot of twists and turns, and then maybe there's like a quote unquote ice level with like, you're not going to have ice everywhere, but you're definitely going to have like stuff that looks like glacial structures, and you have to, be able to navigate around around like a bunch of stalactites coming out of the ceiling. Shit,
tights come out. Yeah, tights come down, mites go up. I think.
Right.
I'm pretty sure because the T in tights goes down. I
haven't done enough research.
Me neither, but I thought...
the T has like what?
A pointy... It comes down, whereas the M has like parts that go up. Mites come from the ground, tights come from the ceiling. So
Okay.
And should we borrow the infrastructure from the Mega Man theme park for this, where there's like obstacle courses with some moving parts and that kind of stuff?
I don't know.
Or is it a slower pace kind of thing?
I don't think that I need moving parts for this. Like, I feel like this can be kind of a chill, let's just explore a thing in a jungle gym type of setting.
Cool.
And if we want, then we can just stay on the path and look at all of it. Like, maybe if there are adults accompanying their kids, they'll be like, you go run around in Magma Pit or, Factory Zone. We'll just stay here and drink our coffee.
I like
and then
that.
they go around in like kind of like a jungle gym type of thing and see a bunch of stuff that they might recognize from an anime, or maybe just stuff that looks like it's from an anime, and meet other kids who are like, whoa, we're in a cool, lava layer. Look at that giant monster thing. I wonder what's behind him.
So I've got an idea.
Exploration, yeah.
What if we kind of combine like a walkthrough exhibit, like basically kind of like a remix of like a children's museum. So there's an area where you're walking through this town from whatever show, from Fairy Tale, and then you get to a part that's like a Ninja Warrior kind of thing, like one obstacle. You don't have to go down it.
Great idea.
I mean, it'd be cool to have like a thing the kids can go do to make forward progression through our like path. The adults can just kind of walk down the steps, and then you get there, and then you walk through another little biome that's from some specific show, and then there's another like fun Ninja Warrior thing that the kids can do. I think that's cool to kind of integrate it and keep everyone so they're not bored. Like, here's a thing for people who love anime, here's a thing for people who want to have some fun, and then like back and forth and back and forth. What are you saying?
Speaking of, this would be a good place for the Naruto kind of to happen.
Oh, that's really cool. Through the like jungle, I feel like there's a lot of like forest action that
There's a lot of
happens in that
forested
series.
areas with like traps.
Uh-huh.
You know, like
Cool.
wire traps set up, and a bunch of like you could see like those kanji symbols on those pieces of paper or whatever,
Yeah.
like put on trees or something
Oh,
like
that's
that.
cool.
What is another kind of anime that you wanted to take a look at?
I really like mech stuff. But I don't know if this is technically shonen or not.
The mech genre is broadly split into two categories: super robot and real robot. Real
Right.
robot is more like
Military.
is more grounded in reality.
Yeah.
So something like Big O is not, you know, supernatural in any capacity, even though people in that show see it as supernatural. But something like the Megazord is absolutely a super robot. Maybe we should have something that is kind of for the mech anime thing, because, you know, this area is all about this theme park is all about feeling like a cool person. And
Yeah,
if that's
that's
how
true.
you do it, then
Yeah.
maybe we should allow for that.
Cool. I was just thinking like the mech anime I really like are a little bit, I think, more too like mature, and like there's a lot of drama and somber episodes and loss and a lot of like like just the Gundam series in general and
okay.
Neon Genesis, like those
I never
shows are
watched
pretty
either of those.
hardcore. A lot of the time. Not like super bloody or a lot of like bad language, but it's like a lot about war. It's not really fun. No one really feels like the good guy. But there are a lot of
Have you ever
shows. Dude, Voltron, Gurren Lagann, like you said, Zoids, sure you might not like
so
it, but that's definitely, I think, shonen, I would say.
If it's not shonen, it's a cousin to shonen.
Yeah, it's definitely super robot anime though.
Okay, let's think about how we could make that happen.
Well, I've been toying around with doing either Gundam episode of this show or Power Rangers for a while.
Power
Which
Rangers would be so much fun.
I love that franchise, man. If anyone wants to do an episode on Power Rangers, hit me up. But okay, yes, Ben.
Next season.
I've been thinking about getting into the cockpit and then having everything be like a very not necessarily complicated, but like a game where every single person in that cockpit, because usually there's like 5 people in the cockpit, they all have to do something to make it go efficiently.
So cool.
I think it'd be fun. There's like there's
what
a
about
computer game
like a stationary roller coaster type of thing?
Pretty much,
maybe?
yeah. You feel like you're in the cockpit of the robot. You know, you can feel it like stand up, and you can feel it get knocked over, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and there's like a thing on the side that's like hull breach, like 60% shields maintained.
Everyone
like,
has their own monitors.
Guy in the, James, we got to get more thrust on the back, on the back units.
There is
I'll try
a computer party game that's like this, where it's basically based on like a Star Trek episode. So one person is like kind of calling the shots, but they don't have all the information. The engineer has all the information about like the systems of the ship, but they don't know like anything about navigation. So like everyone has to like kind of be yelling things at each other and like sharing information so they can like quickly make a decision before something bad happens.
Oh,
so something
that sounds
like
the
that.
Game Space Alert or something like that.
I think that might be it. I feel like I don't remember. It's been, I don't know, 10 years or 8 years.
That's just a board game. It's not a computer game, but yeah.
This is something I saw a long time ago. I don't know if it was on Kickstarter or what, but it seemed super awesome. Something like that, but like lower stakes. Like I'm in charge of, punching with the left arm. So when it's a good opportunity to punch with the left arm, I hit my button. And then someone else like, I'm in charge of the right leg, so I have to like take a step forward. And I know that not every super robot anime is like that, but we could kind of adapt something kind of like that. Like if it is based on Voltron or something like that, everyone kind of has their own area of expertise they need to like be focused on to work as a team.
Yeah, I think that would be a really cool thing to do in like a stationary roller coaster type of sense. Like that, I don't know if there's a different way to do that. That's what makes the most sense to me. Because you could have a screen in front of you and you could kind of feel whenever you take a big punch. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, and they do things kind of like that in some theme parks, or at least they did when I was a kid, where like you control your own mech, and it was basically just a video game that everyone would play, and it would kind of shake a little bit or whatever. And that's good enough, honestly, for any of those mech that you control single person. That's basically a video game. You're playing Armored Core or something. So have something kind of like that.
Do the standard like punch-up treatment of it, like every like all the sports things that we were already talking about. You could like look at the video of like what were you fighting afterwards, and like view it from the side as opposed to from the front, and like see how cool you guys looked.
Did you ever watch G Gundam?
I didn't watch any Gundam.
So, okay, G Gundam was the one I really got into. It's the most shonen of them all. It's kind of like there's a giant robot representing each country, and then let's have a big tournament to see who's like the king of the world or whatever. I kind of forget the plot,
That
but
sounds pretty shonen.
something like that. And so, but the way they control them is awesome. And a lot of them, they're kind of sitting in a cockpit like someone who flies an airplane, right? They're just kind of pushing buttons, pulling levers. And this one, they are in like a full bodysuit, and they just kind of like punch and kick, and whatever they do, the robot does too. So you have like this perfect synchronicity. I think that's where some of the ideas for like Pacific Rim came from, because it's just. But basically,
Pacific
it would work
Rim
with
is a direct. Is a direct reference to mech genre.
Yeah, totally.
To the mech genre of anime.
And I feel like the control thing, I've only ever seen that in G Gundam, where it's just the person does whatever they want to, and the robot does the exact same thing. So having something like that, we could basically just take the exact same technology from the punching. What was that game called? Punch Out area, and do it again, but like reskin the character, and then like suddenly you're a mech instead of a person. But it feels the exact same.
You could fight somebody else in an adjacent machine. It wouldn't be like all that hard at that point.
And that would look so cool. Like I'm punching a mech in the face. That'd be amazing. Especially if we could get licensing.
You're like in like the right leg or something, and then like you see an opening and you slam the button for like a roundhouse kick.
Yeah.
And you hear a kid like 20 feet away go like, "Oh man!"
That's amazing. That? Yes, and we need to like have everyone with a microphone and like a headpiece, so you can hear the whole other team like screaming when you like do the cool special. You have to
have a headpiece. It doesn't matter if they're right there. You have to have a headpiece.
Oh yeah, it feels more real that way.
Absolutely, it's all about feeling cool.
Dude, that feels so cool to me. This is amazing.
Yeah, good suggestion.
Wow. Well, thank you.
That's really good.
What is your shirt?
Oh. This is a shirt from the Geneseo Juggling Club. Geneseo throws up.
All right.
And you will notice there, if you can see it, a radical picture of a fly, a muscular fly on a unicycle. Juggling clubs, yep.
Totally,
and it's very important that the fly has muscular pecs. Internet land, check this out. Look at how muscly this fly is.
Is the throws up part, like, that's why it's a fly, because they, like, throw up when they land? Oh, okay. You said it was very important. You just mean stylistically it's clutch. Yeah.
Stylistically it's clutch, yes.
Okay, cool.
Agreement.
And that's something we can train our employees, our stylists over at the
Stylistic is clutch shop. That's what it says on the back of all their visors. It just says that you can see it like on the top of the visor there. Stylistic is clutch.
That's pretty good.
It's a reminder. I was thinking that another place to go to, which would be pretty fun, would be this is not a like super widely expressed type of shonen, but it's one that was very important to me for a while. I really liked it, and I want to see more of it, which is the mystery kind of subsection of shonen.
Yeah.
Such as Case Closed, which I think is technically seinen, but I still think that it's like I think the mystery aspect of like putting together the pieces and coming up with the answer before anybody else is a very empowering type of thing. And if you remove it from the context of Case Closed, which is very depowering, what you have is like kind of, if you're figuring out a mystery and you can feel good about figuring it out before anybody else, you're kind of in a Sherlock situation. Mm-hmm. And it fits the metric of shonen being something to make you feel cool. So I think that trying to do something like that, kind of doing deductive reasoning stuff, would be really entertaining.
That sounds super fun. Yeah.
If it was done right.
Right.
And here's the idea I have for that. So many shonen settings take place in a school, right?
Yeah.
You're always in a school. And nobody likes being in a school if it's actually to teach.
Right.
But everybody likes being in a school if it's not for taking classes.
Yeah.
Like, schools are just very atmospheric and can be tense. And I was thinking maybe a good thing to do would be to have a school setting escape room.
That's awesome. That's super cool. Where you have to have you have to pick up on some clues to figure out who this bad guy is or whatever. That's really cool.
Yeah, and you could even do it like kind of like a. I'm not sure if you would articulate it as just an escape room. You could also maybe do like a train murder mystery type of thing. Mm-hmm. and maybe have one of like the park employees kind of like playing a role, or maybe even somebody else who volunteers for it playing a role. It really depends on what you're up for. I don't know if you ever played the game Betrayal at House on the Hill.
Yeah. Oh,
So
that's awesome.
what I have the most fun with is being the traitor, And at the beginning, no one knows you're the traitor, including you. Maybe you have something like that, where the clues start pointing toward you, even though nobody told you ahead of time that you were going to be the bad guy. And then the tables turn, and you get to ham it up and like do like a villainous speech.
That's really cool. I almost feel like that could be its own theme park, because it's like because it's not super empowering, kind of like you said. A lot of mysteries aren't that empowering unless you're like,
it's just role play.
Yeah, it's just role play, but that is really cool. And like there's a game called 999.
It sounds familiar.
It's very anime inspired, and it's like it's very similar to
is that. Like
where
9-person, 9 doors, 9 somethings.
Yes, I think it's 9 hours.
I've heard of this.
Yeah,
9 hours. Yes,
and that's in a trilogy of games, I think. But there's like a watch out for fireballs on it, which I think you like. Yeah, so maybe that's where you've heard of it.
I didn't know that you listened to Watch Out for Fireballs.
Absolutely, because of you guys, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that show because
that's why we started podcasting, is because we love them so much.
That was it. I was like complimenting your the skits you do at the beginning, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of like a thing Watch Out for Fireballs does sometimes." And I'm like, "Oh, I'll listen to Watch Out for Fireballs." Okay. Yeah. Okay. So
because we were talking about the murder mystery thing.
Yeah,
yes.
It's basically. No one seems to. Everyone claims like they've lost their memory. They don't know what's going on around them, and they just kind of wake up in this space, and they have to like solve a bunch of escape room types of puzzles. But it turns out one of them is like the mastermind behind the whole thing.
Oh, kind of like Cube.
I don't know what that is. What's Cube?
Cube is a whole trilogy of kind of like sci-fi horror movies. That is. Basically, the government constructed this elaborate torture device to put a bunch of people in a room that is part of a gigantic cube of rooms, and they have to try to get out of it. It's basically just one gigantic escape room sequence.
Yeah.
But one of them is basically in on the idea from the get-go.
Cool.
And there's like, I'm doing a terrible job of explaining it, but it's very cult classic stuff. Cool. The first Cube is really cool, if very strange and in a weird low budget kind of way. It's definitely worth a look, because it's I think it will get the creative juices flowing, if nothing else.
Yeah, when was it released? Is it like an old thing?
I feel like it's like maybe the first one happened in like the 80s or something.
Oh, okay, cool.
I can't remember.
That's a good sign for me. That's awesome.
And there's a couple more that came out. Hypercube, which Ethan tells me is quite bad, but I kind of enjoyed. And then Cube Zero, which is the third installment, which apparently is good, but I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. I'm going to check that out too. That's awesome. Cool. So I love escape rooms. I definitely think they should be everywhere.
There's one in the Franklin Museum that I haven't had a chance to check out yet. I've never actually been in an escape room, but it seems like really a lot of fun.
It's incredible. It stimulates the brain in some very interesting ways. Like that's whenever we're on vacation, I want to find an escape room and kind of see how that city does escape rooms. There's escape room podcasts I listen to. It's really cool. It's definitely like something I would like to do at some point in the future. If I wasn't so passionate about education, I would just be opening an escape room in the next couple of years.
Really?
Yeah, they're super cool. There's not like a ton of shonen shows that are in just the mystery genre, but a lot of them do have like kind of mystery arcs, or like there's something mysterious going on.
Some like psychological thriller elements to a lot of them that very well overlap with the mystery genre. Yeah. So and maybe, I would be happy to see those expressed.
Yeah. So maybe this is a thing that not everyone experiences. Like maybe it's an invitation only. Like, you do this interesting thing during the course of your day, so you get like this mysterious ticket to go to this cool escape room thing. So like
that's such a cool idea,
especially because escape rooms have limited capacity. If there's 100 people in an escape room, that's no fun. So it could be a thing
maybe if they like see that you're like really into the park, and like they see that you're like, super energetic and don't mind like throwing yourself into a confusing direction, and like are really emphatic and enthusiastic and like bombastic, then somebody in like a trench coat and like sunglasses comes by and just be like, "Be here 3:40, don't be late," and like walks away.
Very anime, very cool.
It's extremely anime in a way that I really love.
But that would be so fun. Like instead of just sitting at a desk and waiting for people to come sign up, you get to like put on a costume and go walk around and invite 15 people for every showing. That's pretty sweet.
And as soon as one of your friends gets invited to it, they're like, "Oh, dude, I figured out this super cool thing. You're never gonna believe it."
Yeah.
If you get really into the role playing throughout the day, they invite you to a cool escape room.
That's awesome.
And you could go through your whole day and not recognize that, and you just be like, "What?"
Or we could also have some subtle clues throughout the park. I would like to have subtle references to a bunch of different anime, and maybe there's some kind of overarching clue kind of thing. You solve this clue and it takes you to a location, and then there's another clue, it takes you to another location. And then eventually you get to the part where there's just the trench coat guy.
Like a geocaching kind of thing?
Something like that, yeah. You need to solve this puzzle, and maybe it does give you coordinates, and then you put that in your phone, and you go figure out that oh, that's at this one roller coaster in this one specific part, and then that's a really slow part of the roller coaster, and you see there's some graffiti on the sign that is a clue to tell you to go to this other place, whatever.
Oh, that's super cool.
And so only the people who figure out this meta
if you're
puzzle,
not looking for it, you won't find it, yeah.
Right. And these are people who clearly like puzzles and like digging a little bit deeper, people who like an escape room. So
one truth prevails.
Boom.
One more thing that I was thinking of, because you were kind of priming my pump, so to speak, before going on to this episode. You were saying a couple of shows to kind of keep in mind. I think we were talking about My Hero Academia and One Punch Man specifically.
Superhero stuff.
And those are a genre that deal with something that we haven't kind of been able to incorporate yet, which is major property damage.
Yeah. Which comes with the super robot genre as well.
It does.
Yeah.
I was thinking we could have kind of have you ever played Rampage?
Yes.
You're familiar with the game?
Yeah.
Where you're a giant monster and you tear a bunch of stuff down?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, what if you had kind of some motion trackers on your wrists so that it could tell when you were doing a big punch or throw a bunch of energy balls that way or something, and went into kind of a holographic projection against a screen of some sort, and the motion tracker would tell where you're trying to fire the beam, and it would like sort of an explosion on the screen wherever you fired it. So it would be awesome. Almost like a Rampage simulator, or almost like a kaiju simulator in a weird way. And that's not really shonen, but like you could see, being someone from One Punch Man or My Hero Academia or anything like that, where you have superpowers and maybe you have to stop like a rampaging monster that is like taking over a city, and you have to like fire behind buildings that are against the wall and actually like do like some precision like attacks in order to fight the thing.
That's really cool. And so
it would kind of be like in an arcade where you
Yeah.
can't shoot the bystanders, but you have to shoot like the zombies behind them or whatever. But this would be like city.
That's really cool. And I think once you figured out like the game engine of it, like you make a video game basically of big monster comes and is starting to destroy the city, then you could make different versions of that. Like in one of them, you are a giant robot, you're the same size as that enemy, and then you still have the same like engine, the same physics for knocking the buildings down, all that kind of stuff. Just the perspective's a lot higher up. Versus if you're a human size and you're a superhero, you could be playing the same game just from a really small perspective, and it's kind of about, like flying up or figuring out a way to get on top of the building so you can fight the bad guy. I think that's really cool. I've also been interested in like kind of a more like realistic version of that, like not realistic, but physical, I guess. Like having like a cardboard city, like the actor who plays Godzilla in the old movies.
Oh,
I think that'd be super fun too, like to be able to just kind of play around and knock over like a giant city. That'd
be so much fun for a toddler sort of like playpen area thing.
Oh, that's cute.
Like, put a little like dinosaur costume on and let them like destroy stuff that is, it's just cardboard cutouts or that's like really building blocks or something like that. But you also punch that up. You have like a little video of them like destroying a township or, that's breathing fire or something like that.
Dude, I really love that idea. And like, you could do that. Like, so if you're like a parent and you have your little kid with you and the toddler played in the playground area earlier, so the park has like cool kaiju footage of your kid as the monster. And then when you get to the My Hero Academia part, it's like there's a giant monster and it's your kid and you have to like figure out a way of stopping them or whatever.
That is really cool. Or maybe you're someone who never met this toddler and you're in that section of it.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, I have to fight a giant toddler.
I mean, maybe that's like
a Godzilla costume. This is ridiculous.
They take two different people who don't know each other, who are playing the same game at the same time, and put them against each other. It's like, this kid is playing in the playground right now, and you're piloting a giant, super robot, and you have to fight this toddler.
That's cool.
Oh my god, that's really wacky, but it's pretty fun.
You have to have a waiver at the beginning of this park. Like, your kid is going to get used in, like, proprietary software. Somebody's going to be fighting your kid in cyberspace.
But it's your kid as a giant, super empowered, monster of some sort.
I mean, I would be proud.
Oh, absolutely. Totally.
I'd be the proud papa. Giant monster baby.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I really like that idea. That's very interesting. Yeah. I don't know exactly how you would control the, especially like the superhero thing. Like, if you're One Punch Man, how do you get up there and fight the monster? Is it a video game? Do you run around? I don't know exactly.
I don't know. That's, I'm not totally sure on this one yet. Maybe.
And you could use
if you are someone superpowered. Maybe if you are someone who's kind of like superpowered in a way, maybe you could have like motion trackers on your legs as well, and it will tell when you're trying to doing a big jump, like you're launching off. And like the screen will like scroll vertically downward.
That's cool.
Yeah, it'll be like you're jumping from the ground floor through like past a bunch of buildings to get to where you're trying to be.
Yeah, and then you could just do punch out stuff while you're in midair, and like because you have superpowers, it hits the monster every time.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool. Because I mean, it just needs to feel cool. It doesn't need to be like a fair fight or a real challenge. No. Yeah.
A lot of the cool parts about One Punch Man is like seeing that people are not taking him seriously, and then he mops the floor with them anyway.
Yeah.
And that's a very fun thing to feel.
Totally, that's a very shonen thing as well. It's like, my parents don't take me seriously on this, so let me do some escape fantasy.
I'll have magic powers now.
Yeah, into shonen. Totally. Oh man, that's cool. There's another like kind of subgenre, like the Pokemon, Monster Rancher, Digimon, the collectible monster genre. That could be a thing. It's hard to do. Like we kind of talked about back in the Pokemon episode, way back episode 2. It was like, is it a virtual thing or is it a physical thing that you see in the world where it's like an animatronic, but then you can't really interact with it? Or is it in VR? It's like hard to kind of justify that, I think.
Yeah, I don't want to like make it too high tech, but if you did, you could maybe have like a Maybe you could like have an account on your phone or something like that, and you sign up to the park or whatever, and do kind of a version of Pokemon Go, like throughout the park, but it's specific to that park, and like maybe like this would be, I don't know how difficult this would be to do like technologically, but maybe like if you get like a vibrate on your account or whatever, it's somewhere within like 50 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see it through your phone, but not with your eyes.
That's cool.
So it's like, there's like a Meryl running around in the underbrush. And that could just be throughout the entire park, right? Yeah. It doesn't need to just be in a devoted area.
Totally.
So you could be like, Ash Ketchum, like you could have like your backwards cap and your Pokemon belt or whatever with your backpack, and just be like trudging through all like this, this casino type area and this adventure type area, and like scouting it out with your like, with your phone, and just trying to, nobody else knows what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing, and I'm seeing a ton of stuff they don't see.
That's cool.
Again, getting to like the trying to feel special in this.
You're like one of the chosen few or whatever. That's really cool.
If that's your jam when you come to this park, I don't see a reason that you couldn't just have that overlaid through the entire park.
Yeah. A lot of this, I think we could even do like our own intellectual property on, like getting into the kind of business perspective of this. Like, none of these things are directly connected to specific shows. It's kind of just Shonen Land in general. It's not Shonen Jump Land. It's not Viz Land. So
no, yeah.
Maybe we could have like the kind of story of the monster collecting part is based on something where it's like they're in a parallel dimension or something like that, where it's like there's a story reason to why it's not physically there. Whereas Pokemon Go, if it's your Pokemon, you can see it and it walks around next to you and you can take it out of the ball and all this stuff. Whereas this is like, it's an alternate plane, so we can't actually interact. That's why we have to use our mythical little visors to see where they are. So I think that would kind of make sense, and we could even have like one big cohesive canon. Like all these different parts of Shonen are happening within the same world.
Like this is a Bermuda Triangle, or like a conflux of all like the Shonen dimensions colliding at once. almost.
Totally.
That's a neat idea.
Or even if it's just a real world, like there's kind of like the stadium where people go to play sports and stuff, and then there's the arcade where people play video games, and then there's just like office buildings and generic other business buildings where the giant monsters fall down and like knock the building over. It's like it's just Shonen City. You know what I mean? It's like every single person here is in some kind of shonen adventure of some sort. I'm sure we are missing stuff from the shonen genre. It's huge.
Oh yeah, I mean, like, I didn't talk at all about like JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, anything like that. There's definitely ways you can incorporate it into like the fighting aspect. Like, I didn't talk about Fist of the North Star, but that martial arts type of stuff is very easily doable through that sort of Punch-Out simulation thing that I talked about.
There are so many of them that are martial arts focused.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that there's like enough there that you could get what you need if there was a particular itch you needed to scratch. One thing that we didn't talk about, which I think that this would be kind of a good way to round everything out. How do you want to do the soundtrack?
Ooh, interesting.
You have to have a pretty kickin' soundtrack through all of this, right?
Absolutely. So my original idea was to just kind of take music from every shonen show and kind of play them in the correct area, like where that song makes sense.
Yeah, and if you're really into that area and then you see like your favorite, Hunter x Hunter track come on, you're like, oh, this is rad. I always love hearing a song that I'm in love with when it happens at like the mall. Right. You're like, oh, sweet. Like, most of these aren't for me, but this one is. This feels kind of cool.
Yeah. But then I was also thinking about maybe having it customizable. Like, if you've got the app or whatever, and you tell them that you really love everything by Akira Toriyama, then, like, when you're in the sports area, it'll play some song from one of the shows he's worked on that's kind of sporty, upbeat, that kind of stuff. Yeah. Basically, they'll kind of have a specific type of music to play in each different experience. And there's like, one track from every show that's kind of that type of song. And so it could kind of like, you could be playing the same game next to someone else who's hearing a different song than what you are. But then everyone has to have headphones in, and that like kind of disconnects you socially from each other.
That's
you
what I
can't
was
hear
thinking.
the cries of the next booth over when you knock their robot over. So, yeah.
I don't want this to be a exclusive experience. I want it to be inclusive. I want it to be an interpersonal experience. I want you to be able to talk to people that you're like, I don't know what that's from. Tell me what kind of character you're going for. Oh, it's from this really cool anime. Yeah. It's like this. It's like, have you ever heard of it? It's like, no, but I heard something like it. Get people to like. The mission statement of this park is to get people to crawl outside of their comfort zones, in the shonen sense of it, and I think that having headphones would be too much counter to that.
Totally.
I really like the idea of just having a bunch of soundtracks in the thematically appropriate areas. Maybe if you hear a kickin' rad soundtrack and you're like, I don't know where that comes from. Someone right next to you probably does.
Right. They're singing the Japanese lyrics and you're like, oh, okay, that's who I need to ask. But yeah, that's awesome. Just kind of have like the sports album that plays in the sports area, which is like, it kind of switches shows every track and cycles through. That's awesome.
I would be so hype if I was like doing a Punch-Out thing and I started hearing some like awesome Hajime no Ippo soundtrack. It would just make me want to like duck and roll that much more.
Yeah.
Throughout every attraction in this, you've been doing a thing and maybe there's like a stand nearby where you can see it become more radical and maybe even edit it if you want to. What if when you leave the park you get your own like ending credits?
Oh, that's
personalized
really cool.
You going through all the different places.
I love that. And then, I think that's really cool. So, like, the closing theme songs of, like, just some random anime, most of them are just kind of a peaceful montage of just the characters, like, walking, like, through a really pretty landscape. So it's not like it has to be, like, bloopers or, like, all the best hits. It can just kind of be you being there, like, the kind of small moments. That's really neat. One other thing we need to do is, like, some kind of sword-based game. It can be very similar to the Punch-Out thing. But there's also a lot of, like, fantasy anime that uses, like, various types of swords. And so just kind of doing, like, a sword fencing. Like, we did talk about fencing, but some kind of sword fighting game would be really cool as well. Even if it's just in VR, so no one actually, like, stabs each other. But
I mean, I would accept just kind of a Fruit Ninja thing.
Yeah, totally.
Or maybe, like, kind of a, foam kind of baton sort of stuff suspended over a pool or something like that.
Ooh, that's fun.
I don't know. I mean, like, there's plenty of, like, you could have, like, foam sword or a foam staff or whatever,
Yeah.
whatever you wanted. I mean, I don't think that would be too hard to do. What
No,
were you
I
thinking?
think VR could be really awesome. Even like the Star Wars arcade game with the little joystick when you're playing, like you're doing lightsaber stuff. It's not super great, but that game came out like 25 years ago or something. So doing a modern version of that would be really cool. And there are good VR sword fighting games, but just doing something like that where you can kind of customize. Yeah, I don't know the name of it exactly, but I've played some that are pretty cool. Yeah, they can do it because it's just tracking where your hands are and having an enemy with a sword, and you can parry their sword, you can hit them in the face or whatever. That kind of stuff.
And that's one of those things where you can, like, adapt the settings to which anime you really want to feel like.
Right.
Like, do you want to feel like you have a sword? Do you want to feel like you have a giant claymore, like in Berserk? Do you want to feel like you have a lightsaber? Do you want, like, something I absolutely love from the My Hero Academia thing is one of the characters can, like, make his skin harder, and, like, they become kind of like little arm machetes.
Totally.
I think that I would really love to be able to do some
cool
sort of
power.
VR thing where I'm using literally my arms as weapons.
That's cool. If you could pick, like, not only the cosmetic changes of, like, what does your sword look like, but, like, how do you hold it? Is it a staff?
how does it function?
Is it your arms? That's great. Or is it like, that's totally cool. And it would be basically the same game. You just have different methods of input.
Yeah.
I love that. And then, like, are you fighting off a single enemy or, like, a horde of, smaller enemies?
Is it like a bullet hell kind of thing?
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Awesome. So I feel like we've covered most of the things that make us feel cool about the genre, which is what the genre is all about. Feeling cool and being better and making friends. And that's kind of what we're encouraging here. I feel like it's going to follow that same shonen story arc when people go to this theme park.
I mean, I hope so. I think the most important thing here is for people to become versed in other kinds of shonen shonen anime, shonen properties without actually needing to know the specifics of them, but just seeing the potential. I love the idea of being so immersed in my, batting cage and, grunting like crazy and doing a bunch of fist pumping motions that some guy in a suit comes by and is like, "We like your stuff, kid. Meet me in the haunted house," or something like that. That sounds amazing to me.
That's really cool. And maybe we could just have like a role playing area, because there's always, like even at an anime convention, there's some people who are like dressed up and it's just for cosmetics. It's like, I'm just dressed up, but I'm here to go play this video game tournament. And some people are like, I'm dressed up to role play. And so like having an area for those people where maybe we give them a little bit of the story to kind of start with, and it's like, it's a new story. So if you've never seen that anime before, that's okay, because this is something totally original. No one here has seen this before. Here's your character. Here's the setting. Like, go for it. It can be kind of cool, like a planned out role playing session.
The only difficulty there is I feel like everyone would try to be the main guy.
Yeah, sure.
And then
everyone is
I
the
think that
star
would be
of the
difficult to logistic around.
You're totally right.
For the escape room or like mystery sequence, I feel like everyone could kind of mesh pretty okay. But for something like what you're describing, I don't know if everyone would kind of be into playing a supporting role. So I'm not sure how you would be able to do that.
Yeah, and it depends on like if you're actually like doing the pen and paper role playing thing where you like roll dice and there's that whole thing, or if it's just acting kind of role playing. Because with the pen and paper thing, it's like you can try to be the hero, but if you roll a 1, you're not going to be the hero. That's going to be up to someone else.
Yeah, and like I love D&D, and I hate playing, just the action hero guy who does the best thing at the end. I like playing a wisecracking weirdo support character that's kind of a gimmick.
Yeah.
But I'm mature-ish-esque, and I feel like most people who are into shonen are much more interested in being the hero and being the person who inspires others. And so maybe, I don't know, maybe there's a way to, give everyone kind of a chance at the spotlight without ever making it about one of them.
Well,
and
I think
then
it needs to be a team thing. Like, maybe that's
team thing.
They control the giant robot. So like, if that right kick doesn't happen, the whole thing falls apart. So everyone
and that
has
leads
to
right into like shonen kind of team sports or military style settings where it's all about the cooperation and the camaraderie.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely making it a team kind of thing is way better.
Cool.
Yeah.
That totally works.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like
Even
that.
with like the Sentai stuff, like if
Uh-huh.
you wanted to make kind of a Power Rangers-esque thing where everybody's on kind of a team, like there's no reason that you can't have 5 people doing stupid martial arts poses at once as opposed to one person, right?
Right. Totally true. And with the escape room part, whoever finds that next clue is the hero for a few minutes, and then there's
Yeah.
another clue, and then whoever solves that one is the hero for a few minutes. So, if we invite the most like outgoing, acty type of people, they each get a chance to be in the spotlight at some point during the escape room. Because even if you feel like you're like, I'm going to be the hero of this escape room, that's not necessarily true. You would have to be in every location all the time in order to guarantee you're going to steal the spotlight every single time. So yeah.
Right, you could have like the escape room is partitioned into like 2 teams almost.
Yeah, and there's a lot of them where it's like, you definitely have to be working on this task for a while before you can find anything. So like it kind of naturally does that for a lot of them, or they're at least designed really well where it feels natural. Like, okay, you guys work on this thing, we're gonna go work on this thing, and then both people get to kind of have a small victory when they figure out their thing. I like that a lot, like pacing it so that it's like you're all dependent on one another at a certain point.
Mm-hmm.
That's dope. Good job. This is an awesome theme park. Oh my gosh.
Glad you think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I really love shonen properties, and I would love to see it like kind of put into action and involving a lot of interdisciplinary kind of things.
I think it's fun for a lot of people, not just males between the ages of 12 and 18. There's things for all ages to appreciate here. And I think that the general, things that Shonen is going for, like the goals of Shonen, are also very similar to the goals of this park. It's supposed to make you feel cool and empowered and actually like achieving things. And I feel like during the course of your day, you would do all those things. It's like, you go from playing sports to fighting giant monsters to playing laser tag. Like there's all these different areas you can be successful in, and hopefully everyone gets a chance to be successful at all of those. And what I love is that even if you fail, it's about overcoming that and like still having a good day because of it.
And a part like what I was talking about before with the sports thing, what I like is that what you're getting out of this park is not solely the desire to go watch more shonen. Mm-hmm. It is the desire to go, like, I watched Hajime no Ippo and I immediately wanted to start boxing.
Yeah.
You get out of this and you want to try doing volleyball, or you want to, do a bunch of read a bunch of mystery novels, or you want to start doing geocaching or like parkour stuff if you like went through a particularly cool jungle gym, or maybe you want to try rock climbing because you think that would make you feel cool, like you felt cool in this park.
Wow, that's awesome. I would love to see more of those kind of game and role-playing elements put into athletic facilities. Like if there was a story element to a rock climbing area and like a timer and like intense music that starts happening at a certain point, I would be so much more motivated. Like I would get a membership in a heartbeat. And I think that is a very common thing, not just in shonen, but in a lot of video games and TV shows and young adult novels. And, it's like very relatable to the average person, I think, that arc of empowerment and like getting excited about something and then going out and doing it.
There's a reason awesome. It all relates to us. These are things that we are capable of. We trick ourselves into thinking that we can't, there's too many, it's too hard. It's too hard to get there. I don't know what I will look like when I do it. It's not an imagination that I have. But when you go to this park and you see, video of you, ducking a punch from like this gigantic like fly monster thing, and then giving a sick uppercut that makes him collapse into a bunch of buildings and in slow motion with an awesome like triumphant soundtrack behind it, you feel like you can do it.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's like you can do anything except for give up. Well, listener, viewer, if you have not checked out the Cartoncast and Empowered, please do it. Go see Ben in action and Zane, his brother. They're both cool.
We're always in action. We're always cool.
Yes.
I ran out of steam. I'm on autopilot. I apologize.
It's all good. FancyBat.com, and that's where you can find all of our shows. So go do that. And hey, go watch some cool anime, but nothing too weird, okay? Don't give us a bad name.
No, watch whatever you want. Just don't tell us that. Don't tell people that we're the inspiration for it. That's all.
Yeah. Go watch some shonen. Okay.
Go watch some shonen. Jump on some shonen.